It's 20 years investing.
Yeah,
That's a long time.
I know. That is a long time, which is a bit crazy even for me because I'm like, oh gosh, can't believe it's I'm like 45 almost. I'm like, I don't want to be 45 yet. I'm not ready for that. I still feel 25. Um, yeah, but no, it's interesting because you don't think of numbers, do you? Like of your life, you just sort of. I think my mum said that to me. She's like, one day you wake up and you're just like you're older, and you don't really, you sort of not realise. You know, you forget about the process, isn't it? We're living life. We're not always reflective. Um, so for me, it's like, oh wow, that's a long time ago. And then I tell people, oh yeah, I've been doing this for 20 years, and and it's not sort of 20, it is 20 years consecutively because I've never done anything else. Well, I started really probably in 2005 properly investing, although I did start in 2003 buying 2 properties, and then I really decided, I left my job as an estate agent in 2005 and said, right, I'm not gonna do anything else now. I'm gonna just invest in property and become like an investor, developer, landlord, landlady. And that happened because I'd been working in some crap jobs that I didn't really like. They weren't really crap jobs. There was actually, some of them were quite good jobs after uni. I worked in the music industry for a bit, but the money was terrible. Never earned any money there.
What do you do in the music industry?
I was an A&R assistant, which was not intentional either. I wanted to go into music marketing because it sounded fun, and my degree had been in design, so I was like, okay, it's creative. I can kind of like use a bit of, it's a creative kind of area to go into. And I weren't really getting any ins, and then I got a position as an A&R assistant, and after doing lots of work experience for free, I was working at like all the big labels, doing free work experience, working at HMV at the weekends as a I used to look after the vinyl section, which was quite good. I felt like I was a little bit. We used to have a DJ booth in the middle of like HMV and Oxford Street, so that was quite fun. But again, that was just like a means to an end to support my sort of free work experience I was doing in the week. And I thought I'd go down that route, but it just was taking so long and I didn't really have much patience. And I ended up leaving because my friend, well, I left sort of music after sort of trying to getting there for like 2 years. And I went and got a job local to where I lived after I'd bought these like 2 properties, which it was like a slow, gradual process out of the music industry. I was trying to get in, weren't having much luck. Managed to save enough money to buy my first property, sort of refinanced it very quickly. No, I didn't refinance it, sorry. I managed to buy my second property with a really low deposit at the time. And then I then started like thinking of ways to exit my job because I wanted to go backpacking, but I realised I still didn't really have like enough money, so I got a job in a travel agents, which still wasn't earning very much money. There's a theme here. And then finally I got a job as an estate agent, as an estate agent and negotiator in North London, and that was all very based on it being convenient. My friend had a job as a negotiator in another branch. She said there's some jobs going, and I did that. And it was just, again, a vehicle to save money to do what I really wanted to do, which was at the time I just wanted to take a break, go backpacking around the world. And I kind of figured out 2 properties would be enough to support me travelling. Initially, in the first idea of buying the properties, I realised the first one would pay for the second one. And and that's kind of where it all started. And then when I backpacked, that's when I really sort of started to see everything a bit differently. Like everyone always talks about your mindset, especially in property. Everyone's like, oh, you've got to have, you've got to have a mindset shift. And it wasn't really intentional. Like I didn't think, right, when I go away, I'm going to... But when you do travel and you see the world, and especially at that time, there was like no social media. I had no access to anyone really back home. They didn't even have like when I first went travelling, they didn't have MSN. You know, that thing where you could like talk to people at the same time back home. They didn't have that. But then it came out while I was there and was like, you know, wow, we can talk to people back home. Sometimes we'd be like in internet cafes, like trying to find anyone who'd be online. Might have been your school friend from like 10 years ago or something, you know. So it was really like a very different experience, like travelling them. And, you know, I was like sending postcards home. I've still got like postcards now that my aunt kept, because I was, you know, you're in your thoughts a bit like, you know, imagine, you know, now we've got so much access, like we'd be on Instagram updating what we're doing. I'll cover a postcard and it'd be like, yeah, I went to visit this place today and it was lovely. Saw some lions or whatever, or like, you know, some animal. Yeah, and then...
Talk to me about the properties, because how long ago did you start investing?
So, like I said, it was 20 years ago. So the first 2 properties I bought were in 2003. And that was just based off... I bought one, and then the second one I bought was in the same year. And I realised if I bought a second property, I could essentially rent out the first one and it would pay for the second one.
Tell me about the figures that you talk. Like, how much profit did you make on them?
Well, not really. I didn't really make any profit at the outset because they weren't massively below market value. But it was, at the time, you could buy... I mean, I bought a little flat. It was under 100,000 in North London, but that's what they were at the time. And the second house I bought was it was a house, but it wasn't a short lease house. It had a lease, so it was a leasehold house. So it'd been sat on the market for ages because no one wanted it because it was leasehold. But, you know, unbeknown to me, like completely inexperienced, knew nothing. I was like, oh, well, that's really cheap. I'll go for that. And I remember I made an offer, and I did make an offer below market price, below market value. But at the time, I didn't really know why I was doing that. I just thought, oh, I'll be cheeky. But the only reason I know this actually is because I actually thought I paid what it was marketed for, because I've still got the marketing particulars at home. But I didn't think... I thought up until recently, I thought I paid market value. But then I went into my documents recently. I was like, oh, I did pay below market value. So I think I must have just been being cheeky and they give it to me a bit cheaper.
And what were some of the lessons you learned from that? So I can pretty much guarantee it weren't all plain sailing, was it?
No, it wasn't. I mean, that one, I bought it and it was a wreck even when I bought it. There were so many things wrong with it. Like, it had a lease, so it's 999 years, which it was about 960 when I bought it. So that's why people didn't want it. You also had these like rickety stairs that went through the middle of the house, which were like, you walked up, they were terrible. And then you went through one bedroom to get to the bathroom.